I think I. Good afternoon, good morning, namaste. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you are.
Thank you. On behalf of all of us in the back room today, connected from Delhi, Mysuru, and Barcelona, and on behalf of Central Zoo Authority and Sri Chamarendra Zoological Gardens, Mysore Zoo, I extend a warm welcome to all our listener participants. Friends, zoo community is a global community, and there is a lot to learn from peers through connecting practice. The pandemic may have limited our physical travel, but have opened up new vistas of virtual communication. Today, through this digital platform, we bring to you some very esteemed speakers to discuss and dwell upon topics that would be of interest to each one of you registered today. At the onset, I would like to thank and welcome Dr. S.P. Yadav, IFS, Member Secretary, Central Zoo Authority, who has given us this full support to undertake this webinar series. I would like to request him to give his opening remarks. Dr. Yadav is an Indian Forest Service officer of 1989 batch of Uttar Pradesh, a thorough wildlifer. He has a distinguished career serving in important positions in the state and the center. He has been instrumental in bringing policy reforms for global tiger conservation, and in his current role as Member Secretary, he is preparing CISA Day for its new era of facilitation role. Over to you, sir, for your opening address.
Thank you, Sonali. At the outset, good afternoon to all of you, and I welcome Martin, the newly appointed CEO of World Association of Zoos and Aquariums, and congratulations for taking up this position. Good afternoon to Mr. Ravi and Mysore Zoo for facilitating this webinar. I think I must congratulate Dr. Sonali Ghosh and her team for organizing this series of webinars in this pandemic lockdown scenario. I think this is the best option available with us. Just to give a little brief about what we are doing in CISA Day, Central Zoo Authority was created in 1992 by the Government of India by amending the Wildlife Protection Act 1992. Martin, the Wildlife Protection Act in India is the backbone of wildlife conservation laws. And it has very good enabling positions. Like in India, no zoo can be established or can be run without the approval of Central Zoo Authority. So before 1992, there were unplanned and mushrooming growth of zoos. There were menageries, not very well planned upkeep of wild animals in captivity. So the government thought to bring this establish Central Zoo Authority, and now Central Zoo Authority of India is playing a very important role. It's a regulatory authority, but it's now changing its role towards facilitation. There is an obvious, visible paradigm shift in the role of CISA Day. We do provide technical support to Indian zoos. We do provide some financial support to Indian zoos, but basically Central Zoo Authority provides a regulatory framework, like how a zoo is to be established, how the zoo is to be run, all what the CISA Day approves, their designs of enclosures, animal exchange within the country, between the countries. This all job is rooted through CISA Day only. As you are aware, last time during the last WAZA conference, I had the fortune of meeting Martin and all other colleagues there in Buenos Aires in October 2019. So CISA Day is the institutional member of WAZA. Next, Natima, next please. So in India, zoos are not only providing outreach and awareness to the people in general, but they are also involved in conservation of endangered species. Martin, you would be amazed to know that in India, on an average, 7 to 8 crore, like 70 to 80 million people, they visit our zoos and safaris. When we say zoo, this includes rescue centers, zoos, safaris, and also some species conservation centers. In India, the zoos have been very successful in some species conservation, like vultures, red panda, snow leopard, mouse deer, crocodile, gharial, and they have been very good tragopan. And there has been very but limited one plan approach like ex situ to in situ introduction and all. So there is a scope of improvement. So the CZA is also facilitating professional animal management practices through its technical cooperation. There are, next slide, Narsimha, next slide please. Narsimha, next. Yeah, right. So there are at present 152 zoos in the country, and you can see in the map, they're widely spread across almost all states and union territories of the country. Next, please. As I said, CZA is institutional member of WAZA, but besides CZA, there are 9 zoos who have acquired the membership of WAZA. They are, besides CZA, Vandalur Zoo, Chennai, Guwahati Zoo, Bannerghatta in Bangalore. Recently, the Chatbir Zoo of Panchkula, Punjab has also got this membership. Nandan Kanan Zoological Park in Bhubaneswar, and National Zoological Park, New Delhi, Nainital Zoo, Rajiv Gandhi Zoological Park, Pune, and of course this Mysuru in Karnataka. They have already attained, they have acquired the membership of WAZA. Next, please. We fully, as CZA, we fully support and commit to the WAZA's animal welfare goals. WAZA is, I know that they are striving to achieve high welfare standards for animals in our care, because there are many people who criticize keeping animals in zoos as well, because from the wild habitat we are keeping animals in captivity. So it becomes our moral duty and responsibility to provide the natural ecological system, a kind of replica of habitat in the zoo as close as possible. So that our target should be that animal should be happy. If animal is happy, then zoo management should be happy. Right? So this animal high standard of welfare for the animals gets primacy. The zoo management, they play a very important role in species conservation. They are like animal welfare leaders. They educate the people, educate the visitors. They become authoritative advisors on animal well-being and animal keeping. So WAZA animal welfare commitment statement also includes what I have said earlier, that provide environments that focus on the animal's physical and behavioral needs. This is our moral responsibility, and we are duty bound to provide all this enabling environment to the captive animals. Next slide, please. Martin, you must be aware that CZA is embarking to prepare our 10-year vision plan, and we have also, the government has decided to at least upgrade 10 zoos in the country to the global standard. And these 10 zoos will become a role model for other zoos to come to the standard of the global level. And what we are planning, there is already a committee which is working on it, and very soon we'll come out with a plan, vision plan for 10 years to develop these zoos to attain the global standards. The global standards, as you can see on the slide, treating all animals in our zoos and aquariums with respect, make high animal welfare standards. As I said, if animals are happy, zoo managers and people, visitors, everyone will be happy. The focus has to be the well-being, upkeep, health of animals. Ensure all husbandry decisions are underpinned up-to-date animal welfare science and veterinary science. Veterinary science is again very, very important. I strongly feel that we need to enhance the capacity of our veterinary doctors who are looking after the animal zoos, like this COVID-19 and all zoonotic disease They need focus in capacity building of our veterinary doctors who are looking after these animals. Build and share animal welfare, care and welfare knowledge, skills and best practices. I think WAZA provides an excellent platform where all zoos and aquariums, the leaders, the managers, they come together to share the information, share the experience, share the best practices. So that is again a very, very important thing. I think WAZA is playing a very important role in expanding the knowledge paradigm, the horizon of zoo management in the world. And I think global standard also talks that everyone should comply with the local legislative framework or the rules and regulations of each individual country. That's also very, very important. And CZ is playing an important role in ensuring that all zoos, they comply with the national regulations, rules and regulations, and also the international standards. Next, please. So way forward and future of Indian zoos, I think right now, as I said, out of 152, there are only 9 zoos member of WAZA. There is immense potential and opportunity for all other zoos to join WAZA and get the benefit of the international knowledge available, to join that platform, to share the best practices, learn from each other, and this will also facilitate the animal exchange programs between these countries and the international zoos. I think Indian zoos, they have a lot to learn from the international experience of WAZA. And I'm looking forward, I'm excited to hear about what Martin has to say and the questions from our zoo management. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. This has been extremely beneficial as it has set the tone for this specific session. I am sure we are all looking forward to how the Indian zoos can vis-a-vis learn from the global best practices and also share their own experiences to attain a global best practice and standards. Of course, we are also extremely thankful to WAZA, the World Association for Zoos and Aquariums, to give us this extended support. And Dr. Martin Zordan, the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer of WAZA, is our keynote speaker for today, who will help us understand how Indian zoos can contribute to WAZA's goals, thereby attuning themselves to the global thinking of zoo management. Dr. Martin is a veterinarian, and only now I have come to know that his heart and profession both beat for the zoos. So once again, thank you for your valuable time, and over to you now, sir.
Okay, thank you for this very kind invitation. I just want to check that you're able to hear me. Yes. So thank you very much for this invitation. It's a great pleasure to be here today with you. And I feel very honored that the Central Zoo Authority community and the community of Indian zoos are giving us this opportunity to share our WAZA perspective. Thank you to Dr. Yarab and Dr. Sonali Ghosh for organizing this. Of course, also to the team of Missouri Zoo for helping us arrange this meeting. It's very unique for us to have this great chance. And of course, I don't want to forget to thank a lot of people abroad, your community, that through the years have helped WAZA to remain connected. So thank you very much for that. A very quick introduction about myself, just so you feel more comfortable with me and you know who I am. First of all, I'm from Chile. You can see on this map is that very long, thin country, probably one of the countries that is the farthest away from India. But I can tell you that my connection to India is through your nature. When I was young, I used to watch these spectacular documentaries on tigers, Indian rhinos, gharials. Gharials are one of my favorite animals. So I feel very privileged to have the opportunity to interact with all of you. I'm a veterinarian by training. I started when I was 14 years old as a zoo volunteer. My first task was to clean the exhibit of birds and help the zookeepers to feed them. Later on, I had more chances to do more. I work as the former executive director of the Latin American Associations of Zoos and Aquariums, called WAZA, which brings together Latin American countries from Mexico to Chile to work on similar goals as the ones Central Zoo Authority has. And I have been with WAZA since November 2017 and appointed very recently as the WAZA CEO. Again, I'm truly inspired by all the positive change that your zoos, that aquariums all around the world are bringing. A quick snapshot of where our WAZA members are around the world. And what I would like to bring the attention on this slide is the fact that we have a global, international community to support all of us to learn all together from one another. When we see the WAZA membership, it looks like this. We have 282 members, which are zoos and aquariums in over 60 different regions. Then we have 24 zoos and aquarium associations. Of course, Central Zoo Authority is one of those 24 associations. And these are key organizations to help WAZA with its goals, because you represent either nations or whole continents. Then we, of course, have corporate and affiliate members, and we have live and honorary members. And when it comes to India, I need to thank Dr. Yara for already explaining this. We have 9 members that are zoos and aquariums, and fundamental for us, essential element for us is the Central Zoo Authority. So this gave me a chance to get to understand a little bit better where our members are in India. It was a good opportunity to learn more. And to be quite honest, I have not had too many chances to know our members in India. So I met Dr. Yara last year in our annual conference in Argentina. It was a great opportunity to start that conversation. But I also have discovered new ways to get to know more about all of you. And just a few weeks ago, I discovered this live streaming of Indian rhinoceros at Bangalore Zoo. I probably spent 10 minutes at watching these rhinos interact. So just highlighting that there's so many other ways to get to know each other, particularly now that flies are restricted and that meeting each other in person is more challenging. So if we go straight to what the main topic of discussion today, which is animal welfare from a WAZA perspective, you might know that in 2015, we published the WAZA Animal Welfare Strategy. So this strategy is available at the moment in 10 different languages. It can be downloaded in that link that I'm sharing there. And after this session, you will have this presentation, so you will be able to access to all of those links. We're always adding new languages to the translation of these guidelines. So if any of you are interested in supporting us with translation, that's always an option. One of the key elements of the animal welfare strategy is recommending the 5 domain models as an approach toward animal welfare. So if you have gone through the WAZA strategy on welfare, you will see that it involves 4 physical domains: nutrition, environment, physical health, behavior. And these 4 physical elements influence the mental domain, which is the 5th domain. And overall, this explains the welfare status of an animal. After we published the animal welfare strategy, there were many more steps for WAZA to help improve animal welfare. As we all know, animal welfare is a science of the one we learn more and more. There's new evidence, we gather new information, we have a new understanding. So one of the many different tasks we have is to develop the WAZA animal visitor interaction guidelines. We had them, I think it was in 2016, and now we have updated them and republished them in April of this year. So what is an animal visitor interaction? we see different types of interactions in zoos and aquariums. This can go from visitor feeding animals, touch pools in aquariums where you're able to touch some of the animals, walk-through exhibitions with birds in aviaries or with lemurs. We're seeing new developments in those terms, or other kind of interactions as the ones you could have when you are having animals in presentations in which people can have a different interaction with them. They might be able to touch them, etc. So we came with these guidelines to make sure that we were considering animal welfare in those interactions. And there are 5 key elements to consider. One of them is to monitor and assess animal welfare of those animals involved in those interactions. Make sure the animals are suitable for these interactions. And this comes from a species level approach, but it could also be an individual. You might as well have an animal that enjoys interacting with people and an animal from the same species who doesn't enjoy those interactions. So we want to be mindful of that. Of course, for these interactions, we need staff that knows how to detect if an animal is feeling comfortable, uncomfortable, how to make sure we take care of those animals during those events. Messaging is a key element because we want to make sure that our visitors, our audiences, see these opportunities as a way to connect with animals, care for them, and commit to protect them. So we must ensure that we're exposing our audiences to natural behaviors, and we're introducing them to these animals in a respectful way. And finally, as always, safety is an essential element. We must be sure that not only animals are safe, but our visitors are safe, our staff are safe. So to know more about these animal welfare guidelines on visitor interaction, you can visit that link. It's translated in a few languages, and it's a 6-page document. I invite all of you to explore if they have recommendations that can be implemented at your facilities. And a second effort done by WAZA has been to discuss how, between associations, we come with animal welfare evaluation process that are consistent from a global perspective. So for that, in August 2016, we had a WAZA, the first WAZA accreditation summit in Singapore. So different associations of zoos and aquariums from all over the world gathered, and they presented what they were doing at that time. In the case, for example, of the Latin American Association, we didn't have an animal evaluation process in place at the time, but we were developing one. And this was a unique opportunity to interact with colleagues from all over the world who were also on that path or had already developed their own programs, and for them to share their experience with us. And after that, 3 years after that, we saw the need to meet again. This time we met in Barcelona. It was in July last year. And from Central Zoo Authority, we were pleased to have Dr. Krish Gupta, who represented your community. And in there, we made many decisions and recommendations for our WAZA Council on how we saw moving forward with this animal welfare evaluation process taking places through different associations in the world. So after those meetings, we presented WAZA Council with some ideas, we had a proposal, and they approved what we call now the 2023 WAZA Animal Welfare Goal, which is that WAZA national and regional associations must have an animal welfare evaluation process in place, and such processes must include specific elements approved by WAZA. All WAZA institutional members must comply with this process. So what does this mean? Basically, to achieve this goal, we established 4 principles. There is a need for associations to agree in the definition of animal welfare. There are many definitions of animal welfare, and we want to be mindful and considerate of those national, regional differences. So we're working through the WAZA Association Committee to come up with a definition that everyone's agreed. In the case of India, you're represented there through the Central Zoo Authority. Then each association must have an animal welfare evaluation process in place or rely in another association animal welfare evaluation process to evaluate its members. What do we mean with this? I will give an example. If there was a Chilean association of zoos and aquariums, which is not the case, this association could rely, for example, in the Latin American Association Animal Welfare Program. And they could say, okay, if you want to be a member of the Chilean Association, you need to go through the animal welfare evaluation process of the Latin American Association. And then once you have that status, you can be a member of the Chilean one. And why is that? It's because we also recognize that there might be national associations who might not have all the resources to run this program. Some of them have only one staff member, some of them have only volunteers. So we recognize that there are different realities. The third one is that associations can implement their animal welfare process differently. So for example, the African Association of Zoos and Aquariums would have a way to implement their animal welfare evaluation program that is very different from the European one. And that is perfect. We recognize that there are differences. What we're aiming for is to have some consistency on some elements that I will show in the next slide. And first and foremost, WAZA members must get their animal welfare evaluation from its WAZA recognized regional or national association. And if for some compelling reason they cannot get it from that association, they can go to another WAZA recognized association. So what we're aiming to do is all of these animal welfare evaluation programs across the world to be consistent in 7 elements. And these are the 7 elements we came with from that meeting in Barcelona. And these are all ideas that were presented by the different regional and national associations of zoos and aquariums. So first of all, each program must be based on an animal welfare model. And that model needs to be compatible with the WAZA animal welfare strategy. And it needs to be science-based and consider best practices. The second one is that we need animal welfare standards. So each program must have their own standards. With the ones they evaluate their own members. There needs to be a verification process. The verification process means that your association or another association visits your zoo and does a review, a thorough review of your facility, and it's an audit in place. So it's more than just looking at your paperwork, at your policies. It's also seeing in situ how you are implementing those. A fourth element is the capacity of the association. So as WAZA will go through the different associations programs to make sure they comply with these different elements, we also need to be sure that if you have a program, you're able to carry that program through the years. And capacity of the associations mean access to experts, having staff to run this, having the time to do this. Fifth element is training. So if your association will have a program that has inspectors that goes to a zoo or an aquarium to make sure that they're complying with your association standards, these inspectors needs to get some training to make sure the way they assess institutions, the way they evaluate institutions is standardized. Sixth and seventh element is about the intervention and complaint processes. So we ask the associations to have ways to intervene at a facility, at a member facility, if for some reason there are issues with compliancy. And of course, we need process to know if there is an issue with compliancy. And that's why we're asking also for a complaint process. So someone, in a way, can report back if there is a concern on this facility complying with the animal welfare standards. So this is what I have for you today regarding animal welfare. For us, it's extremely important to be connected with you. And again, we're very privileged to have today that opportunity. And I cannot avoid myself from quickly mention conservation, since it's a key element for WAZA. We had the conservation strategy also published in 2015. You will have the link here to download it, read it if you haven't done it already. And something we do in terms of conservation is to represent the world community of zoos and aquariums at different international forums. And some of them, like the ones you're seeing here, CITES, the Convention of Biological Diversity, or the IUCN World Congress, are forums in which it's key for us to have input from different nations. So we invite India through the Central Zoo Authority to share your thoughts, your concerns, issues you want to raise in those forums that we can do through WAZA. And one that is not directly connected to conservation, but is much needed for us to run our conservation breeding programs, is the International Air Transport Associations, as they set standards on how animals need to be transported. So you can get your community involved in all of these forums through the WAZA Associations Committee. Very important for India is that we have the Asiatic Lion International Stackbook that is run by Wildlife Institute of India. This is a very important international statbook, and it's the one international statbook that is run in India. So we're very grateful by the work that your community does to keep this international statbook updated, and the fact that this statbook is available to share it globally. And also through the years, we would like to thank you for your support to the Indian Rhino International Statbook. We encourage all of the members in India to share data on the international statbook of this species. You might have been contacted already by Dr. von Huwald from Basel Zoo in Switzerland. If you are contacted by her soon, please share information with her so she can keep an updated Indian Rhino International Statbook. If you haven't had a chance to check our How to Reduce Single-Use Plastic at Zoos and Aquarium guidelines, we invite you to do it. Plastic is a constant fight we are having, and we want to make sure we get better at this. And as I get to my last slide, I really would like to congratulate Central Zoo Authority and all of the Indian zoos on this publication. This is the newsletter, quarterly newsletter from Central Zoo Authority. I welcome this document. It was so good for me to read it and understanding more of the zoos in India. I encourage you to continue with this publication. It's a great way to show the world what you're doing. Thank you very, very much. If you have any questions for me, you can contact me there. That's my email. I think now we will also have an opportunity to share questions. But if not, you can write me an email if you don't have a chance to do it today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Martin. That was very informative indeed, sir. And the entire process of how animal welfare is, what it means, the definition, and in terms of the 7 elements and so on, it really gives an eye-opener and something to look forward to for all us in the Indian zoos. Also for new ideas to how we can future. There are a few questions already. I can also see in the chat box of the YouTube where we are live that some questions have come up. These are related to the aspect from our registered participants as well. So I will, if time permits, we will discuss them in the end. Meanwhile, now I would like to request Mr. B.P. Ravi, Additional Principal Chief Conservator of Forest, and Member Secretary, Zoo Authority, Karnataka, to give his summary remarks. Ravi sir is a 1992 batch Forest Service officer serving in his home state of Karnataka, a gold medalist forestry graduate. He has a checkered career record spanning field and policy positions in the state and at the center level. He was also the executive director of Mysore Zoo for over 3 years and undoubtedly is much loved by the state zoo community. So over to you now, sir.
Good morning. Hello. Hello. Sonali.
Yes, sir. We can hear you, sir. We cannot see you, but we can hear you clearly.
Okay. Shall I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
We can hear you, sir.
Thanks to CZA, Member Secretary, and Sonali Ghosh, Martin, and Mysore Zoo and other Zoo community. This is a wonderful opportunity for all the zoo directors, veterinarians, biologists in India. We have an interaction with the WAZA CEO. Mainly the focus of today's discussion was about animal welfare. And Central Zoo Authority Member Secretary has enlisted actually the ideas of zoos in India and the context. In my perspective, Indian zoos are still evolving. And compared to the international zoos, where Central Zoo Authority, which came into existence in the 1992 after the amendment to the Wildlife Protection Act, and we have a national zoo policy since 1998 onwards. And as per that, the zoo policy, our zoos are actually supplementing the conservation strategy in India, especially the in situ conservation, the national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, and other areas conservation. The Indian zoos, if I speak in the context of India, are constrained by the three important resources. One is financial resources. Second one is human resources. Third one is material resources. And the WAZA is sort of an organization at the international level. It gives an importance to the animal welfare, animal ethics, and the standards that have to be adopted by the zoos. And the similar action, actually, this Central Zoo Authority is being done in India. But as a zoo director, from the perspective of the zoo directors and the state zoos, say that most of the zoo directors feel that actually as Member Secretary put it rightly, that Central Zoo Authority must move from regulatory mode to the facilitating mode, because in the states actually, okay, in the states actually the people have a different understanding of the role of the zoos. Primarily, even the forest officer or wildlifer, they feel actually zoos are not required at present. So, being an in situ manager for quite some time, I do agree with this observation of the Central Zoo Authority Member Secretary that the captive animal conditions actually they put a lot of stress. So why the existence of the zoos must be there? Why first of all people questioning why the zoos should be there? But we can't do away with the Jews at this Indian context. About 60 million people or 70 million people in India visit Jews every year. I come to my state, about 6 to 7 million people do visit the Jews. Jews are the first source of actually interaction between the children and the general population to the wildlife. At this context, actually, at this juncture, I would like to reiterate the role of zoos is to focus mainly on the conservation education. Because conservation education is the one way that actually we can change the idea of the conservation about the general population towards the animal welfare. Because many people do visit the zoo with a curiosity to see the animal. They might have seen the tigers. They rarely might have seen the lions. So they do visit the zoos primarily to see these animals from the curiosity. But we concentrate mainly in our zoos that the zoos should act as a sense of the conservation education. They focus on the different people like the school-going children, college-going children. They provide an opportunity for the school children and the college-going students to have an idea of this actually the wild flora and also the fauna. We focus mainly on the education progress, thereby this zoo would impact the conservation strategies in the long run. Our day-to-day practices of the zoo mainly consists of the three important elements. One is visitors, second is the wild animals, third is actually environmental settings. As a zoo director, my job was actually to take care of this actually the needs of the visitors, the needs of the animal. So the central agencies or the WAZA agencies, they actually try to confine or try to regulate their role of perspectives from the point of the animal welfare. But the state zoos are actually always trying to concentrate more on the visitor facilities. So we have to balance between these visitor needs and the animal needs. To balance these visitor needs and the animal needs, we require resources. To generate resources in Indian context is very difficult because Indian populations cannot afford like the Western populations to spend money on the welfare activities, adopt the animals. Therefore, our zoos are actually catering to the needs mainly of the general population. When the general populations visit the zoo, first they want to see that actually whether this zoo is kept clean, whether the animals are actually fed well, and how this environmental settings are provided. So the clean, green zoos are actually our first idea that actually we implemented in our state. Secondly, we require a lot of resources to implement these ideas of actually the WAZA welfare opportunities. The resources actually are not forthcoming in the Indian setup. So how to actually get the resources is a huge challenge for the zoo managers in the Indian context. Because when you have the resources, definitely this animal welfare would be taken care of. This one. If in the absence of the resources, it is very difficult actually for a zoo manager to take care of the animal welfare, animal nutrition, and all these aspects. And the capacity building is another aspect. There actually our veterinarians, zoo managers must be exposed to the international standards. So I urge the WAZA and the Central Zoo Authority at least to select the few zoo directors and the few veterinarians to get an opportunity to sponsor them to see actually what are the standards actually other zoos are adopted in the other countries. And in this respect, I say that actually that we require a sort of a financial strength, financial support both by the Central Zoo Authority from the WAZA and also the technical help and material help also. Material help, I say particularly that in case of an exchange of the animals, zoo directors feel that most of the time they feel that it is a very cumbersome process to get this actually animal exchange is done. And I urge the Central Zoo Authority and also the WAZA use of technology. For example, that so many formats are there in the animal inventory and all those things. Instead of actually getting the animal inventory throughout the year, if there is a system, the web-based system is there, where the zoo director can just order delete the treatment or the deaths or the inventory of the animals. It is very easy instead of actually generating the report. So I request the actual Central Zoo Authority member secretary to have a use of technology where the web-based system is there for all India zoos, where actually the zoo managers can make their entries and whatever the format instead of actually getting the reports every now and then. This is one aspect. I say that this is very much required. Secondly, they feel that actually animal exchanges deals, they get a lot of time to actually to implement it because of the change in the veterinary protocol at the national and the international level. Therefore, these two aspects are very important from the Central Authority and the WAZA to get this the animal exchange deals to be done very quickly, and if possible, the training capacities of the zoo managers and veterinarians. If possible, this financial resource to the zoos. So with these two words, I must thank the Sonali Ghosh for taking this initiative, and also I must appreciate the Central Zoo Authority for taking this initiative to the zoo committee.
Thank you so much, sir. We could hear you clearly. There was a bit of a disturbance with your video, but I think absolutely fine. And I think you very rightly captured the essence of how states and how Indian zoos are able to manage and look for the initiative. And in this regard, all your valuable points and suggestions, especially for Central Zoo Authority, WAZA, is something that we look forward to working towards in the next couple of months. And I think this webinar is one of the series of the collaboration that we want to do with WAZA, with the state zoos and everybody else. And especially for this, I would like to thank the team of Mysore Zoo, especially led by Dr. Ajit Kulkarni and his team, who have been exemplary and extremely positive in coming up with this beautiful partnership. I would like to open up for questions because I think we do have some time, and we do see a couple of questions also on the chat box. Having said that, if you permit, I would like to, because we did get a couple of questions on the registration form, so we would like to take that up, and perhaps we could have one question each for Dr. Martin, Dr. Yadav, and Shri Ravisa. So, Martin, for you, the question is that, and this is, I'm also seeing is being repeated in the YouTube chat box, is that whether animal welfare and captive management can be achieved simultaneously. What should be the priority for managing a zoo, and especially how do you educate the keepers and how do you sensitize them, and how do we make sure that they are always heard in a better, dignified way? I bundled up a couple of questions, but the essence is that captive management, animal welfare, and even in terms of zookeepers, the animal keepers, how do we all have a positive synergy in all of this? Dr. Martin.
Perfect. I will share a global perspective, and I can think that there could be some differences between countries. But for us, from the goal of the zoo, the ultimate goal is conservation, and the daily task is the animal welfare. So for that, of course, you need to have an operation that is sustainable, that is financially sustainable, that is open to the public, that fills the public expectation. And we do think that that can go in hand with animal welfare. So I come myself from a country that doesn't have a lot of resources when it comes to zoos and aquariums. And what I have seen as progress is that a lot of the progress has to do with practices and philosophies of work. So in those ways, you can achieve things without really compromising your the management of the zoo. I think we're seeing globally people more interested on animal welfare, and as they expect, they have some expectations on the way that animals need to be cared. So a zoo that shows that provides good care to animals, many times is a zoo that will have visitors, that will have both local and foreign visitors. So in a way, what we're trying to show is that animal welfare is not in conflict with the business of keeping a zoo. Yeah. And visitors are feeling this need to be ratified, to be guaranteed that animals are receiving proper care. And that is something that associations, Central Zoo Authority can bring. A body that says this is a zoo that is committed to this. Then I think the other question was on how you involve zookeepers. And I have to say that, again, I think the way we move forward as a community of zoos and aquariums in different professions or expertise, whether it is the zookeepers, the veterinarians, the educators, we're seeing many associations being created for them, and where they are able to grow is through exchanging experience with other colleagues. I will share some very specific examples that I have seen do work. Within country, there's some exchange programs for zookeepers that go to another zoo and learn new practices, or even Facebook groups, WhatsApp groups, anything that allows you to have this level of network. Unfortunately, I don't know specifically the case of zookeepers in India, but at least in Chile, where I am from, there's limited information for zookeepers if it's not in Spanish, if zookeepers are not given the opportunities to acquire that information. So sometimes you need to create opportunities for them with training courses. Within your own institution, you might have a capacity building workshop or other opportunities for them to grow. Yes. So with that, I think I answered both questions. Is there a third one that I forgot? I'm checking here. Yep. Yeah, I think I answered.
Yes, Dr. Martin, I think you've answered most of it. It's just that what should be the first priority for managing a zoo, if you would want to? And, there are a couple of questions on the chat box, like in terms of, tourism, and how can zoos work with tourism associations? So I think essentially is profit, or in terms of, which comes a priority, profit making vis-a-vis welfare, and especially, in this post-pandemic situation, we do hear a lot about Western zoos getting closed because there's not much of revenue. So your thoughts on that?
So just to be clear on that, from a WAZA perspective, the priorities for zoos is conservation. And to do conservation, yes, we need to take well care of the animals in the zoo. That is welfare. To achieve your conservation goals, of course, you need a sustainable financial model to allow you to invest in all of these elements. And there's different models that can work for a zoo. So there's private zoos, there are government-owned zoos. There are mix between those two models. There are zoos that are visited mostly by locals, some other zoos that are visited by tourists. So it will be up to each institution to discover what the way forward will be for them. But what I can share, for example, is that through this pandemic, there's a few zoos that are members of WAZA that we're seeing that, of course, they relied a lot on tourism. And as tourism is not happening right now, they're seeing their business affected. So we will have to evolve on more sustainable models if we're dealing with the pandemic or second waves of the pandemic. And when we're talking about receiving tourists in our zoos and aquariums, it is important to know where they're coming from and what their expectations are. I will share just one experience we're having at WAZA since this year. You might know Expedia, who is a tourist provider online and that provide access to flights, to renting cars, hotels, but also to tourist opportunities like visiting zoos and aquariums. So last year, Expedia asked us, how can we know that a zoo is a good zoo or not? Because we're seeing a lot of complaint from our audiences and clients saying that they don't want us to promote certain zoos. And we talked with Expedia and we told them, we are promoting that by 2023, all of the WAZA members will have animal welfare evaluations done, and they will comply with those. So Expedia said, okay, please share your list of WAZA members because these are the zoos that we will be working with. The ones that right now are committed to animal welfare and that after 2023 will have a way to prove it because now they're complying with this. So again, it's conservation. To achieve conservation, we need to do animal welfare. And to achieve all of this, we need to have sustainable business models. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. Absolutely spot on. Sustainable models, business models for animal welfare. I think that's the mantra takeaway from this webinar. I would like to pose another question to Dr. Yadav now, sir. This is also from the chat box. Will there be now more stringent guidelines for zoo visitors post the pandemic? What do you feel? And how do you think that Indian zoos can improve their standards to be at par with international global standards?
Okay. So about pandemic, this was a really unprecedented situation. We never imagined that such a situation will occur. There will be no trains, no flights. This is unprecedented situation across the globe. Regarding pandemic, we have issued several guidelines, and I believe that after this pandemic is over, there will be a new normal. And still we have to think about the new normal. What would be the situation in zoos? Because in zoos, their important components are animals, our staff, and visitors. Everybody has to be safe from such zoonotic disease. And we have to take a special care of animals, that from human to animal transmission doesn't take place, or vice versa. Similarly, visitors. There will be a lot of safety concerns. Like after pandemic, we came to know that a couple of zoos they have opened in India, but there are hardly any visitors. There are very few visitors. Everyone is afraid. There is a fear psychosis about this pandemic, corona, and other zoonotic disease. So we have to think over it. We have to ponder over it, that what would be the new guidelines. Maybe we have to all follow the social distancing, the use of sanitizers, and all precautions which the Ministry of Health, Government of India has communicated. We are very, very quick in issuing advisories regarding pandemic. They are on our website. So I think there will be a new normal, and we'll think about it and issue a separate guideline. There has to be some stricter regulations so that disease doesn't spread from human to animal and animal to human being. staff remain safe because I appreciate their courage, their bravery that during this pandemic they are keeping, providing feed, keeping all necessary facilities available to the animals, and that's hats off to their courage and bravery. Sonali, the next part of your question was about, can you repeat?
And how do we, yes, so how to improve the standards of Indian zoos to bring them at a comparative global standard? You explained in your presentation, but if you
right. So as Ravi also said that, and we also feel that Indian zoos, most of the zoos are not up to the global standards. As I said in the beginning, the Central Zoo Authority is working on a 10-year vision plan for the country. At the same time, we have selected, or in the process of selection of 10 zoos to bring them to the global standards. This is one aspect, a planning aspect. But I feel that there are a number of very good zoos at international level. We like Twin Cities concept, so we'll work on Twin Zoo concept. We'll try to bring Singapore Zoo or USA-based zoos and try to develop synergy between two zoos. Say Mysuru Zoo will have MOU with Singapore Zoo, something like that. So we learn from each other the best practices, the global standard, and all. And about finances, Ravi spoke about the financing thing. I strongly feel that every zoo should become a center of profit. We should, and that too sustainable. We should innovate. We cannot depend on the government for everything. We should have innovative financing mechanism, public-private partnership. That's very much required. And for that, we need to manage the zoos professionally. There are very important aspects of zoo management, like the staff, the capacity. Martin also spoke about it. Ravi also spoke about it. We need very qualified professionals to handle the animals. Similarly, to handle the visitors, visitor satisfaction is very, very important in zoo. So we have to ensure that when the visitor enters the zoo and when he comes out of the zoo, there is perceptible change in his experience, his knowledge, his perception about the animal upkeep in the zoos. So with all these things, I think we are moving in the right direction and we will achieve the standards which we talk of, the global standards. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I think the twinning of zoos is excellent, and I think we are embarking towards that, and we would be in the coming months sharing more and more inputs on that. I think we have just about time for one more question, and then we will close this. So this question is for Ravi, sir. So you did mention, but I think we are more keen to also understand that how do states, especially Karnataka, are now managing, especially in the post-COVID times, since the revenue would have dipped drastically and there is likely to be restriction in the near future. So if there is any plan or strategy of sustainable model that you have, kindly share.
Sonali, this is very difficult question, and actually for Karnataka zoos, we require about 1.5 million rupees for every day. Our revenue is just about 100,000. So on average, but our zoos are generating only about 3 million rupees per month. And now, during this COVID period, what we did actually, our zoos contacted the district in charge ministers. They took them to the zoo. They took them around this zoo, and they shown that the amount of the feed, the fodder is required, expenditure, the number of personnel they are requiring, their salaries required. And during that time, actually, that it is very sensitively bring to their notice. Actually, the zoos requires the help certainly from the state government and also from the corporate sector and also from the individuals. We made an appeal to the spiritual leaders, the religious leader, the policy maker, bureaucrats, politicians. We brought them to the zoo. Because of these efforts are actually we raised about 3.6 or 3.8 crores, about 38 million rupees during these 2 months. Today also I am in one of the Jews, mini Jews Chitradurga. I paid a visit to these two spiritual leaders, to visit the Jews and also see that this is the time if we want to help these Jews, this definitely that will help us the animals welfare as well as our salaries for the keepers. They come forward, and we made an appeal to this corporate also, the mining companies and some other these industries. They have come forward like Infosys, Sudhamurthy have come forward, donated about 2 million rupees. The Birla Group, Ultratech, they have donated about 1 million rupees per other mini Jews. So we don't require actually in the terms of actually money. They say that if they want to come forward to take up any developmental project, they can straight away can take up and execute the development projects as approved by the Central Zoo Authority in the master plan. This is one way of actually roping in them and getting the resources. Second way is actually I must appreciate my Zoo director, the Mysore, Bangalore, and these Shimoga Zoo directors. The sustainability, the concept of sustainability is not only in terms of actually financial resources. We have a huge tract of the lands are there. There we started growing the fodder. For example, my Shimoga Zoo director is meeting this entire fodder requirement for these animals from his own own area. And also this Banerghatta Zoo also now about getting 2 tons of the fodder from their own. They are saving up 20,000 rupees per money. Now my Mysore Zoo director also started taking this fodder cultivation plan. We have a series of ponds actually in the Banerghatta. One day we went there and actually there wasn't a problem. Actually, fish could not come in the lockdown period. And there immediately my director and this veterinary doctor come there. Said, we have a ponds, a series of ponds. Is it okay for you to harvest the fish? I said okay. So sometimes the rules may not permit us. So looking into the condition, I said go ahead. If some questions are asked and we have devised a method, we started harvesting the fish in our ponds. Therefore, they are meeting this ponds from their own ponds, the fish requirement. Even Mysore Zoo also now we are slowly introducing that. Why don't we have a pisciculture? Therefore, actually we can meet our part. So therefore, in this context, I request this actually Central Zoo Authority and also WAZA to consider one proposal. Even though the rules are there, to consider actually the animals which are aged about 25 years. Yesterday I visited a zoo. There is a 25-year-old lion is there. And 26-year-old leopard is there. And this is the odd time actually you have to take some decision whether how to manage these animals. There are rules are there, whether we can go ahead actually euthanizing this animal. This is one question actually we have actually put this put this question to our administrators, the state government, our chief wildlife warden. Other question that actually the Central Zoo Authority actually when you started comparing with these other international zoos, for example, the Martin in his course of discussion, he has raised the question of actually touching this animal. For example, there are huge animals, number of animals are there. People also wanted to come and touch, but that our rules won't permit that. So we have to devise, considering this animal welfare and actually the pressure on our zoos, is there any way, actually middle way, therefore in some special circumstances set up, people who adopted these animals can go there and interact with this animal, feeding and everything. Therefore, we can devise a strategy meeting the feeding articles charges and we can get this resources from this type of visitors. There are many ways, but it is a difficult time. But the state government, this is why that actually we as the state government, zoo must be considered as a forestry activity. They say that in the Central Zoo Authorities and the government of India, when 85% activities is considered as the forestry activities, except the visitor facilities. What prevents actually the government of India or the state government to actually give resources for the development of activities like enclosure constructions and maintenance of charges. Therefore, this time probably the considering the, for example, there is a concept of man-animal conflict is there. at this time is that our goal is personal conservation. The most important is for there are number all the names to talk to. And not many because respect to the product. And one question I don't know, like in India, if you say this, we have actually number of safari animals are there. Our number of the outlets, the deeds, everything that we actually recycle our own resource. I interact with my memory deeds and they keep on. We are moving. I issue the moment rights for moving it properly. That so we have to adapt. And then whatever ideas zoo directors or any state zoo directors may bring to this notice the Central Zoo Authority. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Your voice was breaking a bit because I believe you're in Central Zoo right now. But having said that, we could hear a few animals and birds applauding when you were speaking. So I'm sure they are in with you, and we really appreciate the CSR initiatives, the initiative to go out and meet up with spiritual leaders and everybody else, and engage in the empathy and compassion aspect of animals' welfare. So with this, I think we do not have much time because I think we've done the full 1 hour. And so I would like to especially thank all the speakers today, especially Dr. Martin Zordan, who was able to give his time on a weekend and give us very beautiful initial talk. Of course, Dr. S.P. Yadav sir for all his support and the new initiatives being taken up under his guidance and leadership in the Caesar Day. And Ravi sir, of course, for his very passionate and informed passion for the zoos and the zoo management. I would also like to thank the backroom team, both at Caesar Day and Mysore Zoo, for the smooth functioning of this webinar. The recording of this webinar is now available on the YouTube channel, and we will share the speaker presentations with all the registered participants. So until we meet till the next time, thank you, one and all. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonali. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Ravi. Goodbye. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you very much.